Welcome to our latest Blockdaemon hosted webinar, featuring insights from William Sutanto, CTO of Indodax, Indonesia's premier crypto asset marketplace. Indodax stands out with over 2 million members and extensive crypto asset trade capabilities. This session will explore Indodax's journey since its inception in 2014, highlighting the transition to utilizing Blockdaemon's Builder Vault for secure key management through multi-party computation, or MPC. Over the next 20 minutes, learn about the transformative impact of Builder Vault's Threshold Security Module, or TSM, on Indodax's operations, marking a significant shift from traditional infrastructure to cutting-edge MPC systems. Discover the strategic role of TSM in enhancing security, operational efficiency, and the shaping of wallet services for Indodax's operations. If you're interested in learning more about any of Blockdaemon's products discussed in this webinar, please reach out to us today at hello@blockdaemon.com. But without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with William Sutanto, Chief Technology Officer of Indodax. So thank you, William, for joining today. First of all, I'd love to get your insight into the evolution of Indodax in terms of the company, but also the products that you support and how that product suite has evolved from 2014 to today.
Thank you. It's my honor as well to be invited to this call. So basically, we have been around since 2014, yes. And back then, I think there are very few choices for like wallet services out there that we can use to provide our infrastructure. And yeah, hopefully, like for now, we have few vendors, few partners like Blockdaemon that I'm very glad for that you produce the service that you do. So in the early of time, like I mean, most of the companies, like most of exchanges as well, we just use a very traditional infrastructure, like with 2014, only few coins back then, like only Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, and so on. So usually how we approach is we using the native nodes, native wallet that provided by the developers of the particular platforms. And then next is many custody services came also. And yeah, in the earlier time, we just used the traditional like single sign cryptography. Back then, there was no like MPC system like now. And then moving forward, we also have like multi-sig technology. But the problem with multi-sig is like the approach of multi-sig is different from its blockchain. So, but for now, we have MPC and we're starting to integrating Blockdaemon for our MPC, basically.
I'd love to get your insight into your experience of building with MPC, and if you could tell me some of the primary use cases that you've needed to leverage Blockdaemon's wallet infrastructure for, and specifically what has been the journey to building your own wallet solution, some of the needs that it meets compared to traditional solutions, as you mentioned, like multi-sig. What are some of the advantages there?
I think our journey with MPC from Blockdaemon so far is, I think, very good. We implement it only like 2 or 3 months to be able to push it into production. Even for POC, I think we tested it like only for 1 or 2 weeks. So we can decide we will moving forward with the TSM from Blockdaemon. So far, I think the journey is very good. You create a very good product, I think.
Just wondering then, what is the primary use case as the leading crypto asset exchange in Indonesia for building your own wallet infrastructure using the TSM? Is it focused on internal treasury management, or is there custody services? Is it in the trading stack itself? And how does this align with your strategic objectives?
Yeah, for us, for Indodax, we as crypto exchanges, of course, we specifically use the TSM for our custody solution, for supporting our custody infrastructure. We have the duty, the responsibility to store our members' asset. So specifically for TSM, we use the MPC infrastructure to power our hot storage specifically, only for hot storage.
And I suppose, could we elaborate potentially on the multi-party computation setup for the wallet? Specifically, Obviously multi-party computation distributes key shares. But what are some of the considerations that you take into account when deciding the setup or configuration of the TSM? For example, who to select for key share distribution, and how important is it to ensure that all the key shares are kept locally to ensure that any regulations in Indonesia are met?
Actually, from the regulator point of view, they don't really enforce us to use any specific technology for our wallet service, but it's like the approach is it's based on our internal research. Basically, what is the safest way to implement our, especially the hot storage, but also as a hot storage, we need to the fastest way for the transaction to be able to transact as fast as possible. So how do we decide is actually, it's not very sophisticated actually. We just go with the like common best practice for MPC setup. So I think the most important point is that uh, with MPC, we can separate like some kind of segregation of duty between each node, right? So each node we have different uh, risk management from each node. So uh, let's say for usually MPC have 3 nodes. So for each node, before the node can approve or sign a transaction, they have a specific role we design that they need to check specific data point, and then they have some algorithm before they can sign anything. And it's not has different mechanism, different flow and different data source. So that's how we manage the risk to separate the nodes. So our spirit is basically how even our DevOps teams that have access to the wallet servers cannot do anything because all the nodes are distributed and all the nodes have their own like risk management that's completely different from each other.
Just taking a step back for a second as well, I'd like to get your insight into any future or potential applications or developments you're exploring with MPC-based wallets. And do you see this technology evolving within your infrastructure beyond custodial services or to something else as well?
For now, we're still focusing on using the TSM for host storage because it's. I mean, even though we already migrated some of our wallet into TSM, it's not done 100% yet. So it's still some of journey that we need to do. But I think something that interesting in my mind is like how we can like develop a Web3 wallet to be given by to our members, but it's a completely native Web3, kind of centralized, of course, because they don't have the private key. They don't store private key by themselves. But I think this is something that we can utilize TSM for. So basically, to make the UX better for our local Indonesian members to be able to tap into Web3 world.
And can you potentially share any operational or cost efficiencies that you've realized or that you've experienced by utilizing the TSM from Blockdaemon's Builder Vaults? Are there any quantifiable benefits you could share so far that you've experienced?
But that's the thing I love for using TSM actually, because by using TSM, we some kind of like converting our variable cost into fixed cost. I mean, if you want to use MPC, usually we need to use like external wallet custody, which most of them they charge by AUM or charged by traffic, means in and out. But with TSM, the cost structure is very different, which basically you're like infrastructure company. So your cost is like based on the nodes that we are using. So for us, it's very good cost wise, especially in this time, in the bullish time. because obviously all the assets that we are storing increase in value. But the problem with exchange is we store our users' asset for free. We cannot charge them for custody fee. So it doesn't make sense for us to use the cloud solution that charging using the AUM. So we are very happy using a cost model like this.
And you mentioned that the TSM is used for custody services, but obviously your custody would encapsulate a wide array of different protocols. So I'm wondering, how important is control over protocol support important for your exchange? And then how has this decision impacted your choice of using the TSM versus competing services?
Yeah, that's I think the beautiful of MPC technology, because MPC basically you're working on the encryption layer, which it made you like agnostic, very different with the other solution which is multi-sig. So it's very important for us to be able to support as many platforms at as many networks as possible. So like currently that I can count is we have more than 40 L2 Ethereum L2 solution out there, and if we using like multi-sig with smart contract, it will be very difficult to deploy. So TSM is very good solution for that. So exchange business model is basically very simple. Like we generating revenue based on the volume that we get from our traders, and our traders want to trade if they can find the tokens or the coins that they want to trade in our exchange. So it's very important for us to be able to integrate as many networks as possible.
And you mentioned there that the revenue you generate comes from the traders. But
Yeah.
also, I'd like to touch on staking. The stakers, the revenue that you would potentially generate from rewards from staking. So, considering the unique crypto native focus in Indonesia, how has your approach to products such as staking been tailored to meet the needs of your market? And how have you found introducing staking as an offering into the Indodax product suite?
Yeah, staking is something that very interested in terms of the retail market, because uh, they they can generate some yield from the tokens that they hold, better than sitting for nothing, right? So but there are some challenges as well. So one is technology challenge for sure. So most of people in retail, everyday users, they don't understand how to stake by themselves. So they rely on service like us for from the centralized body or centralized exchange to help them stake. And even for them, like the term staking is not something that familiar. Like what they know is like time deposit in their bank account. So that's why in Indodax we also not using staking for the staking product, but we use earn. I think most of exchanges also use different terms. That's one of the challenge, and another challenge is the regulatory challenge as well. Because when we generate some yield for our users, they will have some view how we able to give them some yield. Where is the interest coming from? So we need to work back and forth to the regulator in Indonesia to explain to them why the POS staking specifically is safe. There is almost no risk. There's some risk, but it's very limited. So in the end, we need their approval. But thankfully, we got approval from our local regulator to run staking services in Indonesia.
And for staking services, what has been the response been from your user base of introducing this product? And also, how do you manage the operational process of managing assets for staking?
The operation basically it's not very complicated. Yeah, as long as I mean the one thing that we also very happy as a Blockdaemon customer, since we can stake from our cold storage. And for our cold storage, we use our external cloud custody, which also like partnering with Blockdaemon as well. So from the custody service, we can set up like transaction policy So we have some officer in our office that have few level of approval. So they act as the operators day by day to monitor how much we need to stake from our cold storage, how much we need to unstake. So just to keep the balance of the staking and also manage the day by day settlement, whether from the staking account to our cold and hot storages.
Reflecting on your partnership between Indodax and Blockdaemon, could you give us a summary of how the integration of Blockdaemon's infrastructure influenced your operational capabilities and product offerings, and how is the relationship, how is the partnership benefited Indodax?
I think partnership like this with especially technology providers is very important for us, since I mean, from external, maybe people maybe can think like running an exchange business is quite simple in the technology point of view, but actually behind the scene is very complex, right? It's of wallet, it's of blockchain platform. They have their own algorithm. They have their own encryption, and some of blockchain they use like UTXO, some of blockchain they use EVM. Solana is also different. So we really rely on external vendors like Blockdaemon as well, right? Otherwise we cannot speed up the development, because we need to like we need to run agile, right? We need to develop as fast as we can. So thankfully, there are a lot of services, and one of the best is Blockdaemon.
Thank you very much, William. On that note, we'll leave it there, but appreciate your input today. A fascinating discussion, and thank you for the time.